$1,200 for road tax, Tubby. You don't need me to spell it out, right? Ricky's grin stretched wide as he stepped out of the darkness, 3 men fanning out behind him. He drove his palm hard into Marcus Calloway's shoulder, all 320 pounds of him barely rocking. Marcus said nothing. His hands stayed at his sides. His breathing stayed even. But what Ricky and the 3 lackeys couldn't see was that the overweight trucker standing quietly under these yellow parking lot lights had spent 22 years doing things to enemy combatants that would never appear in any newspaper. Before continuing, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you can't miss. The Holland fuel stop appeared out of the Tennessee dark like the last ember of a dying fire. Marcus Calloway eased his foot off the accelerator and let Blue Thunder bleed down to a crawl. The big Cobalt Peterbilt groaned as it rolled off I-40, tires crunching over cracked asphalt that hadn't seen a repair crew in years. He checked his mirrors out of habit. Nothing behind him but black highway and cold sky. No other rigs, no headlights, nothing. Just him and the road, and 12 miles of silence in every direction. He pulled up to the pump island and killed the engine. The cab went quiet. Marcus sat there for a moment, the way he always did, just listening. Wind moving through the tree line. A loose piece of metal siding on the fuel stop's roof ticking in the breeze. That was it. That was all. He checked his watch. 12:15 a.m. He climbed down from the cab carefully, the way a big man learns to do after enough years of bad knees and cold nights. 320 pounds of him descended the steps with practiced patience. He zipped his jacket against the November chill and walked toward the diner's front door, gravel crunching under his boots. The bell above the door chimed when he pushed through. The place was almost empty. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, washing everything in pale yellow. 4 stools at the counter, 6 booths along the window, a pie case with 2 sad slices left in it, a hand-lettered sign on the wall that read, Lauren's, open for 24 hours. Since 1987. The woman behind the counter, Lauren Holland herself, all 67 years of her, looked up when Marcus walked in. She was a small black woman with reading glasses pushed up into silver hair and a dish towel over her shoulder. Her face was the kind that had smiled 1,000 times and earned every line doing it. But right now, she was not smiling. Her hands were shaking, just slightly. But Marcus noticed. He noticed everything. Evening, he said. Evening, honey. Her voice was steady enough on the surface. Practiced. Everything is fine. Coffee? Please. He settled onto a stool at the counter and pulled off his cap. Marcus Calloway looked every bit of his 48 years. Broad through the shoulders, heavy through the middle, with the kind of stillness about him that most people mistook for slowness. He wasn't slow. He was just a man who had learned a long time ago that you didn't spend energy unless you needed to. While Lauren poured, he took a slow look around the diner the way a man does when he's pretending not to. That's when he saw the boy in the corner booth. Young, mid-20s at most, Hispanic, work jacket, worn boots, the look of a long-haul driver still dusty from the road. He was sitting completely still, with both hands wrapped around a coffee mug, like it was the only warm thing left in the world. His bottom lip was split and crusted dark. His right eye had the early yellow shadow of a bruise forming underneath it. He was staring at nothing. Marcus drank his coffee. He let a few minutes pass. Then he picked up his mug and moved to the corner booth and sat down across from the young man. The boy looked up, startled, wary. "You all right?" Marcus asked. The boy looked at Lauren. She turned away to wipe the counter. He looked back at Marcus. "I'm fine," he said. Marcus nodded slowly. He wasn't going to push. He just sat there and drank his coffee, patient as a man with nowhere urgent to be. It took about 4 minutes. "They took everything I had," the boy said quietly. $800, cash. Just walked up to my truck and took it. His voice was tight, controlled, like he was working hard to keep it from cracking. 4 of them. Said it was a road tax. Said every independent driver on this stretch pays, or they get the same treatment. He touched his lip without thinking about it. I filed a report. Deputy came out, looked around, said there wasn't much he could do tonight, and left. He let out a breath that wasn't quite a laugh. I've been sitting here for 3 hours. His name was Eddie Garza, and Marcus Calloway listened to every word. He didn't say much. He asked a few quiet questions. What the men were wearing, what they were riding, what exactly they said. Eddie answered all of it. By the time Marcus finished his coffee, he had a clear picture. Not the whole picture, but enough. He stood. He put 2 20s on the table without being asked. You file that report again in the morning, he said. Don't let them tell you no. He nodded once to Lauren. She nodded back, something grateful and heavy in her eyes that she didn't put into words. Marcus pushed through the front door, back out into the cold Tennessee dark. Blue thunder was waiting for him. Marcus had his hand on the fuel cap when they stepped out of the dark. 4 of them, moving in from the gaps between the rigs like they'd been waiting there the whole time. Patient, practiced, comfortable. The kind of men who had done this exact thing many times before, and never once been surprised by how it ended. They wore leather vests over hooded sweatshirts, Iron Covenant patches on the back, a skull split down the middle, the words Harlan County stitched beneath it in red. The biggest one led. He was maybe 6'2", thick in the chest, with a shaved head and a beard that hadn't been trimmed in months. He walked with the loose, easy swagger of a man who had never once in his adult life been made to feel small. He stopped about 4 feet from Marcus and looked him up and down, slowly, deliberately. Then he grinned. Well, look at this big old boy. He glanced back at his crew. They're getting bigger every year, ain't they? 2 of the others laughed. The 4th one, younger, jumpier, with a patchy beard and mean little eyes, moved around to Marcus's left, cutting off the path back to the diner. Marcus didn't move. He kept his hand resting on Blue Thunder's fuel cap and watched all 4 of them the way a man watches weather coming in off the horizon. Road tax, the big one said. He pulled the words out slowly, like he was explaining something to someone who might not be keeping up. Every independent rig running this corridor pays. That's just how it works out here. He tilted his head. Rig your size, 1,200, cash. Marcus said nothing. You hear me, big fella? 1,200 dollars. The man held up both hands and wiggled his fingers like he was counting for a child. Or we have ourselves a real bad night. The jumpier one on Marcus's left snorted. Don't think he understands the concept, Ricky. Maybe he's slow, another one offered. Ricky, the big one, took a step closer. Close enough now that Marcus could smell cigarettes and motor oil and the particular sourness of a man who enjoyed this. What do you think, Tubby? Are you slow? Because from where I'm standing, you look like a man who spends a lot of time sitting on his backside eating whatever's in front of him. He looked pointedly at Marcus's midsection. Lot of front of him, too. More laughter. Marcus looked at Ricky. Then he looked at the man on his left. Then the 2 behind Ricky. He did it slowly, calmly, taking each face in for exactly 1 second. Then he said, quietly enough that only the 4 of them could hear it, I'm going to give you exactly 1 chance to walk away. Ricky blinked. Then his grin came back, wider this time, almost delighted. He turned to his crew like Marcus had just said the funniest thing he'd ever heard. Did this fat boy just... He turned back. Boy, do you have any idea who you're talking to? Do you understand what we will do to you out here? Walk away, Marcus said again. Same volume, same tone. Ricky's grin flickered. Something shifted behind his eyes. Not fear, not yet, but the first faint edge of uncertainty. He didn't like it. He stepped forward and drove his palm hard into Marcus's shoulder. Marcus rocked back half a step. He steadied himself. He rolled his neck once, a slow, deliberate rotation, like a man settling in for something that, and his eyes went somewhere else entirely. Not angry, not wild. Something much quieter than that. Something that had no temperature to it at all. Ricky saw it. His grin died completely. He opened his mouth. The fourth man, the jumpy one on Marcus's left, reached for Marcus's jacket. That was the last decision any of them made for a while. The fourth man ran. His boots slapped the asphalt, and he was gone into the dark between the rigs without looking back. Marcus watched him go. He didn't move to follow. He stood at the side of Blue Thunder and looked down at the three men on the ground with the same unhurried calm he'd carried in through the diner door 20 minutes ago. Ricky was on his back, staring up at the black Tennessee sky with an expression that was mostly confusion. Marcus dusted his jacket off with one hand. 11 seconds. That was all it had taken. Here is what 11 seconds looked like. The jumpy one on Marcus's left grabbed for his jacket with his right hand. That was his mistake. Reaching instead of striking, the way amateurs always did. Marcus didn't step back. He stepped into it, rotating at the hip, and took the reaching wrist in both hands. One sharp controlled motion downward against the joint. The crack was quiet and definitive, like a green branch snapping. The man folded sideways, making a sound that wasn't quite a word. 1. Ricky was already moving. A big man's charge, head low, shoulders forward. He had weight and anger and absolutely nothing else. Marcus sidestepped with more speed than a 320-pound man was supposed to have, used Ricky's own momentum, and redirected him face first into the asphalt with a flat palm between his shoulder blades. Ricky hit the ground hard and didn't bounce. 2. The third man was smarter. He hung back for a half-second, recalibrating. That half-second was all Marcus needed. He closed the distance in 2 steps, got an arm across the man's chest before he could set his feet, and walked him backward into Blue Thunder's front grill. He pinned him there with a forearm the size of a railroad tie pressed across his collarbone. Not crushing, just completely and utterly immovable. The man's feet scrambled at the asphalt and found no purchase. 3. Marcus held him there and turned his head toward the fourth man. The fourth man ran. Marcus released the third man, who slid down Blue Thunder's grill and sat on the asphalt with his back against the bumper, breathing in shallow, stunned pulls. Marcus stepped back and looked at all 3 of them. Ricky face down and groaning, the jumpy one curled over his broken wrist, the third one sitting against the truck, like his bones had stopped working. There was no rage in Marcus's face, no satisfaction either. Just the flat, finished calm of a man who had done a necessary thing and was now done doing it. He checked each of them quickly and efficiently. Pulse, breathing, pupil response on Ricky, who'd hit the ground hard. Nobody was dying. Nobody had a neck injury. They were going to hurt for a while, but they would all go home. He reached down and picked up the roll of cash that had fallen from Ricky's jacket pocket when he hit the ground. He didn't count it. He just held it for a moment, then walked back across the lot toward the rigs. Inside the diner, 2 faces were pressed against the window glass. Lauren had both hands flat on the counter, her body completely still. Beside her, a teenage waitress named Amy, maybe 17, dark ponytail, a Holland Fuel stop apron, stood with her mouth open and her order pad hanging forgotten from one hand. In the corner booth, Eddie Garza was on his feet, staring out the window with an expression caught somewhere between disbelief and something that looked almost like hope. Marcus pushed through the door. The bell chimed. He walked to Eddie's booth and set the cash roll on the table without ceremony. It was more than $800. Ricky had apparently been having a good night. "That's yours," Marcus said. Eddie stared at it. Marcus looked at Lauren. "Call 911. Tell them there are 3 men in your parking lot who need a deputy, and possibly an ambulance. Don't tell them anything else." Lauren nodded. Her hands had stopped shaking. "You—" Amy started, then stopped, staring at Marcus like he had just stepped out of a television set. Marcus looked at Eddie one more time. "File that report again in the morning," he said. "Walk in there and put it on the desk, and don't leave until somebody takes it. You hear me?" Eddie nodded. His jaw was working like he wanted to say something and hadn't found it yet. Marcus put his cap back on and walked out. He had Blue Thunder moving by 12:47 a.m. The on-ramp for I-40 East was empty. Marcus merged into the right lane and settled in. One hand easy on the wheel, the big engine finding its rhythm beneath him. Behind him, the lights of Holland Fuel Stop shrank in the side mirrors and disappeared around a curve in the tree line. Ahead was nothing but black highway and white centerline markings ticking past in the headlights, one after another, like seconds being counted off. Marcus drove. He didn't look back. 40 miles east of Harlan, the highway opened up and the tension in Marcus's shoulders began, slowly, to unwind. He drove the way he always drove at this hour, steady in the right lane, no radio, just the engine and the road and the particular kind of quiet that only existed in the middle of the night on an empty interstate. The kind of quiet that didn't ask anything of you. He thought about the three men in the parking lot. He thought about Eddie Garza's split lip. He thought about the way Lauren's hands had been shaking. Then he pressed the Bluetooth button on the steering wheel and dialed Nia. She answered on the second ring. "Hey, Daddy." Her voice filled the cab like warm light, and Marcus felt something in his chest loosen that he hadn't even realized was tight. "Hey, baby, I wake you?" "No." A soft laugh. "I was up studying. Ms. Patterson moved the history test to Thursday, and I'm only halfway through the chapter." "Thursday. You've got time." "Daddy, it's already Tuesday." "Then you better stop answering the phone." She groaned, the dramatic, full-bodied groan of a 16-year-old who felt deeply misunderstood. I needed a break. My eyes were crossing. A pause, the sound of her closing a textbook. "Where are you?" "Eastern Tennessee. Just made a stop. Heading toward Knoxville." "Same stretch again?" "Same stretch." "Daddy." Her tone carried the particular combination of affection and exasperation that she had been perfecting since she was about 14. "You know there are other roads." "I know the exits on this one," he said. She laughed, and it was so much like her mother's laugh, the shape of it, the warmth of it, that Marcus went quiet for just a moment. "How'd the game go?" he asked. "We won. Jasmine made the last shot with 4 seconds left and everybody completely lost their minds." She paused. "I almost called you, but it was late. You can always call me." "Even at midnight?" "Especially at midnight." He could hear her smiling through the phone. "Coach said if we win Friday, we go to regionals. The whole school is going crazy about it." "You going to the game?" "Obviously. Jasmine would never forgive me." A beat. "You're not going to make it back for it, are you?" "I'll try, baby." "You always say that," he said. "Sometimes the road has other ideas." She accepted that the way she always did, not entirely happy about it, but understanding. She had grown up watching him leave and come back, with the patient rhythm of someone who had learned early that loving a trucker meant getting comfortable with distance. They talked for a while after that, the easy, unhurried kind of talking that didn't need a reason. Nia described the history chapter she was struggling through, something about the civil rights movement that she actually found interesting but couldn't make herself memorize properly. Marcus listened, and then, carefully, quietly, started telling her things that weren't in the textbook, things he knew from his own grandmother, things passed down like furniture, carried from one generation to the next. Nia went quiet and listened. That happened sometimes. This particular stillness she got when she realized her father knew something nobody had thought to write down. "Why don't they put that part in the book?" she asked. "Because somebody decided what went in the book," Marcus said simply. A pause. "That's kind of messed up." "Yes, it is," she laughed softly. Then, "Daddy, are you okay? You sound, I don't know, different." He kept his voice easy. "Long night, I'm fine." "Okay." She didn't fully believe him. She never fully believed him when he said fine, but she let it sit. I'm going back to studying. Good. Drink some water. Don't stay up past midnight. It's already past midnight. Then don't stay up past 1. Deal. A smile in her voice. Love you, Daddy. Love you, baby. Lock the doors. I always lock the doors. The call ended, and Marcus drove in comfortable silence. The cab warm with the echo of her voice, the particular kind of peace that only his daughter's laugh could put in him. He thought about the history chapter. He thought about Friday's basketball game. He thought about trying to make it back in time. He drove like that for 40 minutes. At 3:11 a.m., his phone rang. The number on the console display was Lauren's. Marcus frowned and answered. Lauren. She didn't say hello. Her voice was stripped down to just the necessary words, the voice of a woman holding herself together by will alone. He came back, she said. Julius Hargrove himself. This morning, just after dawn. Had 6 men with him. He knew about your rig, the color, the make. Asked me questions. I didn't tell him anything, Marcus. I swear I didn't. I know you didn't, Marcus said. What did he say? A pause. He could hear her breathing. He left a message. Her voice dropped. He said, Tell the fat man we know about his daughter. Tell him Nia is a pretty name. The highway stretched out ahead of Blue Thunder, long and dark and empty. Marcus said nothing. Marcus didn't pull back onto the highway. He sat with both hands on the wheel and the engine idling, and Lauren's words hanging in the cab like smoke. The hazard lights clicked on automatically when he'd stopped. Orange light pulsing across the dark asphalt in front of him, steady and rhythmic, counting off seconds. He let 90 of them pass, not from shock. Marcus Calloway did not shock easily. He sat still because stillness was how he thought. And right now, thinking clearly was the only thing that mattered. He went through it methodically, what he knew, what he didn't know, what needed to happen in the next 10 minutes. Julius Hargrove had Nia's name. That meant he had more than her name. A man like Julius, careful, methodical, running a criminal operation across 4 counties for years without a serious legal challenge, did not throw names around as empty theater. If he knew Nia's name, he knew where she went to school. He knew her routine. He knew enough. Marcus reached for his phone. He dialed Nia's number and listened to it ring. His jaw set, his breathing slow and controlled. She picked up on the 3rd ring, her voice groggy now, the studying having finally lost the battle with sleep. Daddy? Is everything okay? Hey, baby. He kept his voice exactly the same as it had been 20 minutes ago. Warm. Easy. Sorry to call back so soon. Change of plans on this end. I need you to do something for me. What? Slightly more awake now. You remember your friend Tamara? The one on Prescott Street? Yeah, of course. I need you to stay at her place tonight instead of home. Pack a bag in the morning before school and go straight thereafter. Don't go back to the house until I call you. A pause. Longer than he wanted. Daddy? What's going on? Nothing for you to worry about, he said. I just need to know you're not home alone for a few nights. Can you call Tamara in the morning? She won't mind. But, Nia. His voice stayed gentle, but it carried the particular weight that told her, clearly and without argument, that this was not a discussion. Call Tamara in the morning. Don't go home alone. Can you do that for me? Another pause. He could hear her working through it, weighing the urge to push against the thing in his voice that she had learned, over 16 years, to take seriously. Yeah, she said quietly. I can do that. Good girl. Get some sleep. I'll call you tomorrow. He ended the call and sat for a moment with the phone in his hand. Then he scrolled to a contact that had no name attached to it, just 2 initials, VO, a number he had not dialed in 6 years. He looked at it for exactly 3 seconds. He pressed call. It rang twice. Marcus. The voice that answered was deep and unhurried, with the faint trace of a Ghanaian accent worn smooth by decades of American living. Victor Norris had been many things over the course of his life. He was currently the owner of a private security and intelligence firm operating out of Atlanta. More importantly, he had once been the man covering Marcus's left side on operations in places that didn't make the news. He asked no unnecessary questions. That had always been one of his best qualities. "Victor," Marcus said, "I need information on a criminal organization. White supremacist biker gang. Name is the Iron Covenant. Operating out of Harlan County, Tennessee. Leader goes by Julius Hargrove." He paused. "They've threatened my daughter." A brief silence. Not hesitation. Processing. "How deep do you need it?" Victor asked. "Everything," Marcus said. "Members, operations, finances, political cover, law enforcement connections, everything you can find. Give me 12 hours. I'll be in Knoxville by 9. Call me when you have something." "Marcus." Victor's voice dropped a register, just slightly. "How bad is it?" Marcus looked out through the windshield at the empty Tennessee highway stretching away into the dark. He thought about Ricky and his 3 friends in the parking lot. He thought about Julius Hargrove showing up at Lauren's diner with 6 men before dawn. He thought about the way those words had sounded in Lauren's voice. "Tell him Nia is a pretty name?" "I don't know yet," Marcus said. "That's why I need 12 hours. He ended the call. Clicked off the hazard lights. Put Blue Thunder in gear. The highway opened up ahead of him, and Marcus drove east toward Knoxville, steady and silent in the dark, already thinking 3 moves ahead. Marcus delivered his load to a distribution warehouse on the eastern edge of Knoxville at 8:52 a.m. He backed Blue Thunder into the receiving dock with the mechanical precision of a man who had done it 10,000 times, climbed down, signed the paperwork, and exchanged exactly 12 words with the dock supervisor. Then he pulled the rig to the far end of the truck stop lot across the street, cut the engine, and waited. He ate a sandwich from the cooler behind his seat. He drank 2 cups of coffee from his thermos. He watched the lot fill up and thin out as the day moved through its hours. Morning rush giving way to the midday lull, the lull giving way to the afternoon. Drivers came and went. Nobody paid him any attention. A big man in a cobalt truck, parked and quiet. He called Nia at 3 o'clock. She was between classes, her voice bright and distracted, the way it got when the school hallway was loud around her. She confirmed she was going to Tamara's after the final bell. She asked if everything was okay. He said yes. She said okay, in the tone that meant she still didn't entirely believe him, but she trusted him enough to let it go. He told her he'd call that evening. He meant it. At 9:47 p.m., Victor called. "Talk to me," Marcus said. Victor talked for 22 minutes, without stopping. Marcus listened to every word without interrupting once. The Iron Covenant was not a biker gang. That was the first and most important thing Victor established. It had the appearance of one: the vests, the patches, the motorcycles, the rural Tennessee territory. But underneath the surface it was a functioning criminal enterprise, structured and deliberate, with income streams and a hierarchy and long-term strategic thinking behind every move it made. 63 active members across 4 counties. Leadership concentrated in Harlan County under Julius Hargrove, with regional captains overseeing operations in the surrounding areas. The extortion corridor along I-40 had been running for 4 years. In that time, 11 independent truckers had been driven off the route permanently. Some by violence, some by sustained intimidation, some by having their loads stolen until continuing simply wasn't financially viable. Not one successful prosecution. Not one conviction. The organization's financial backbone was a company called Harlan Freight Solutions, a legitimate trucking dispatch business that the Covenant had absorbed through a campaign of threats and property destruction against the original owner, a 61-year-old man named Gerald Pitts, who had sold at a catastrophic loss just to make it stop. Through Harlan Freight, extortion proceeds were laundered alongside legitimate dispatch revenue and fed into 3 other businesses: a car wash, a storage facility, and a small construction company. All of them clean on paper. All of them owned by men connected to Julius Hargrove by blood or loyalty. County Commissioner Dale Gandler sat on the Harlan County Budget and Oversight Committee and had been receiving payments from the Covenant for 3 years. His influence kept the county sheriff's office politically neutered, underfunded, understaffed, and acutely aware that certain investigations were not going to be rewarded. The FBI had noticed. An organized crime task force agent out of the Memphis field office, Agent Diane Thorson, had been building a RICO case for 18 months. She was smart. She had, at one point, a credible cooperating witness, a former mid-level Covenant member named Terry Chavez, no relation to the commissioner, who had been willing to testify about the financial structure of the organization. 6 weeks ago, Terry Chavez disappeared. No body, no trace. The case stalled. Julius Hargrove, Victor said, former Tennessee Department of Corrections, prison guard for 11 years at Riverbend Maximum Security, terminated after a brutality investigation, inmate injuries that were documented but never fully prosecuted. He spent 3 years building the Covenant after that. He is not impulsive. He does not make mistakes out of ego. Every move this organization makes has been calculated well in advance. A pause. Marcus. These are not the 4 men in the parking lot. I know, Marcus said. There are 63 of them. I heard you the first time. Victor was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do? Marcus looked out through the windshield at the dark lot. A light rain had started sometime in the last hour, tapping softly against the cab roof. Somewhere across the lot, a rig was idling, its running lights burning amber and red in the wet dark. He thought about Eddie Garza sleeping in his cab. He thought about Lauren's shaking hands. He thought about Nia packing a bag and not knowing why. I don't know yet, Marcus said, but I'm going to figure it out. Morning came gray and cold over Knoxville. Marcus was back on I-40 by 7, but he wasn't making time. He wasn't running freight. He had called his dispatcher the night before and pushed his next pickup back 2 days. Personal matter, he'd said, and left it at that. He had the corridor to himself, and he intended to use it. He drove west, back toward Harlan, back the way he'd come. But this time, he stopped everywhere. Every independent truck stop. Every fuel station still run by a family name instead of a corporate logo. Every diner with a gravel lot and hand-painted hours on the door. He pulled Blue Thunder in slowly, parked, went inside, ordered coffee, and listened. When the timing felt right, he asked quiet questions. He didn't explain who he was or what he was doing. He just asked, and he listened to what came back. What came back was bad. At a fuel stop outside of Cookeville, he found Eddie Garza. The young man was in his cab, not sleeping, just sitting, engine off, staring out the windshield at a concrete wall. Marcus knocked on the passenger window. Eddie startled, then recognized him and unlocked the door. "You're still here," Marcus said. "I made my delivery yesterday," Eddie said. He looked worse than he had 2 nights ago, paler, with the hollowed-out look of a man running on no sleep and too much fear. "I should go home. My wife's been calling." He paused. "I just keep thinking about what they said, that it doesn't matter where I go, that they'll find me if I come back through. Do you drive this corridor regular?" "Every 2 weeks. Same route. I've been doing it for 3 years." He rubbed his face with both hands. "I don't know what I'm going to do." Marcus sat with that for a moment. "You're going home," he said. "Today. Your wife needs you home." He held Eddie's eyes until the younger man nodded. "I'm working on the rest of it." He left Eddie's cab and kept moving. He found Walt Hudson at a truck stop outside of Baxter. A big, weathered white man of 61 with broad shoulders gone soft, and a face that had the permanent squint of someone who had spent decades reading the road. He was sitting at the counter of a roadside diner, nursing black coffee, his rig parked outside with a load he hadn't picked up yet. He had no particular reason to be sitting in Baxter. He just wasn't ready to go back on the corridor. Marcus sat next to him. They talked the way truckers talk, slow and indirect at first, circling the real subject. Walt got there eventually. 2 months ago, the Iron Covenant had stopped his rig on a lonely stretch between Cookeville and Harlan and taken the entire load. $40,000 in consumer electronics. Walt had been hauling it on contract for a mid-size retailer. The contract had a loss clause that put the liability on the driver when law enforcement couldn't recover the cargo. Walt ate the full loss. His wife Meredith had been diagnosed with breast cancer 8 months ago. The treatment costs were manageable, barely, when Walt was working steady. After the load theft, they were not manageable at all. "I filed the report," Walt said. He wasn't angry when he said it. He was past angry. He had moved into the flat, exhausted country on the other side of it. Deputy took the statement. Never heard another word. "Commissioner's office told me there was an active investigation when I called. That was 8 weeks ago." He turned his coffee cup slowly in both hands. "Meredith's next round of treatment is in 3 weeks. I don't know how we're covering it." Marcus didn't say anything for a moment. Then he quietly asked Walt for his fuel stop preference and paid the man's tab, and 2 nights of lot parking without drawing any attention to the act. Walt looked at the receipt the cashier slid back to him. He looked at Marcus. "You don't have to do that," he said. "I know," Marcus said. By the end of the second day, Marcus had spoken with 9 drivers. 9 separate accounts of robbery, intimidation, assault, and extortion along the same stretch of highway. Most were too frightened to file formal statements. Some had tried. None of it had mattered. That night, parked in a rest area outside of Lebanon, Marcus called Victor. "I have first-hand accounts from 9 drivers," he said. "The actual number affected is closer to 11. Maybe more." Victor was quiet for a moment. "What are you planning to do with all of it?" Marcus looked out at the dark tree line beyond the rest area lights. "I'm still deciding," he said. Marcus pulled Blue Thunder back into Holland Fuel Stop the following morning just after 8. The breakfast crowd, such as it was, had already thinned out. 2 older men in work jackets shared a booth by the window, talking about nothing in particular. A single driver sat at the counter with his back to the door. Lauren was behind the register, and when she saw Marcus come through the door, her whole body visibly relaxed, the way a person does when they've been waiting on something without admitting they were waiting. She poured his coffee before he sat down. He ate eggs and toast and let the diner settle around him. When the 2 men in the booth paid their tab and left, Lauren came around the counter and sat across from Marcus. She kept her voice low out of habit, even though there was nobody close enough to hear. "There's something I should have given you before," she said. She reached into the front pocket of her apron and set a business card on the table between them. White card, federal government seal, clean black type. Special Agent, Diane Thorson. FBI, Organized Crime Task Force, Memphis Field Office. "She came through here about 6 months ago," Lauren said. "Sat right where you're sitting, ordered coffee, asked quiet questions. Careful woman. Didn't say much about what she was building, but she was building something." Lauren tapped the card once with one finger. "I didn't give her much. I was scared. Still am." She paused. "But you're not." Marcus picked up the card and looked at it. He sat with it for nearly an hour after Lauren went back to work, turning it over, thinking through what Victor had told him about the stalled investigation, the disappeared witness, the 18 months of work that had gone nowhere, an FBI agent who wanted Julius Hargrove badly enough to drive 80 miles into Harlan County and sit in a diner asking quiet questions, was an agent who had run out of easier options. That meant she might be willing to work with what he had. He stepped outside to the parking lot and made the call. Thorson answered on the second ring. Her voice was crisp and professional, and immediately sharply alert the moment Marcus said the words, "Iron Covenant." Whatever she had been doing before he called, she stopped doing it. "Who is this?" she said. "Someone with current intelligence on the Covenant's operations along I-40. Patrol routes, extortion schedule, 2 laundering transactions in the last 30 days. He paused. I want to meet. A brief silence. He could hear her thinking, assessing, weighing, deciding. When? She said. Today. Somewhere between here and Memphis. Neutral ground. They agreed on a truck stop diner in Jackson, Tennessee, 80 miles west of Harlan. Anonymous enough, busy enough that two people having a quiet conversation at a corner table wouldn't attract any attention. Marcus drove straight there. He arrived first, took a table in the back corner, ordered coffee, and waited. Thorson walked in 40 minutes later. She was in her early 40s, medium height, with dark hair pulled back, and the kind of face that gave nothing away without deciding to. She wore civilian clothes, jeans, a dark jacket, but she moved through the diner like a person accustomed to reading rooms. She spotted Marcus immediately and came directly to the table without any pretense of looking around. She sat down, put nothing on the table, and looked at him with clear, measuring eyes. You're not a federal informant, she said. It wasn't a question. No. Law enforcement? Former military. Which branch? Navy. She studied him for another moment. What do you want out of this? The same thing you want, Marcus said. Julius Hargrove in federal custody, and his organization dismantled. And if I ask why? They threatened my daughter, Marcus said simply. Something shifted in Thorson's expression. Not softness exactly, but a recalibration. She leaned forward slightly. Tell me what you have, Marcus told her. He laid it out cleanly and in order. The patrol routes he had personally observed, the extortion schedule Eddie and the other drivers had described, the specific timing and location of 2 cash transactions he had traced to front businesses in the Harlan Freight Network through Victor's intelligence. He gave her names, dates, and license plate numbers from memory. By the time he finished, Thorson was sitting very still. How long did it take you to gather this? She said. 4 days. She looked at him steadily. My team has been working this case for 18 months. I know, Marcus said. She absorbed that without reacting to it. Then, I want to continue sharing intelligence. Regular contact. Agreed, Marcus said, but all contact goes through your personal cell. Not your office line, not your official channels. He held her eyes. Personal cell only. She frowned slightly. Why? Marcus kept his expression neutral. He had his reasons. He wasn't ready to share them yet, not until he was more certain. Call it caution, he said. Thorson looked at him for a long moment. Then she took out a pen, wrote a number on a paper napkin,